Afternoon, and welcome to the afternoon session on Thursday in the third week of the public hearings in the online platforms market inquiry. This afternoon, as I indicated, we're back to travel and we're starting with Avis, and I'm very glad to welcome the Avis team, which is represented by Mr. Nkombisa, the Executive Private Sector and Partnerships, Ms. Porteous, the General Manager, Partnerships, and Mr. Mwaze, the Executive Corporate Services, Compliance and Governance. Welcome, Avis team. I know you have a presentation, and I think that's up. So I'm going to ask you to take us through that, and then we'll ask questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to skip the first part that deals with the introduction and the history and all of that. I'm going to shoot straight to the customer segments. All of this information is contained in the Word submission that you've got on your side. Okay. Skipping through.
12.
Slide 12. Okay, so I will take everything as read. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for giving us the opportunity to come and share our experience with the online platforms. We, as Avis, are here to ensure that in the long run, there is an equitable participation in those platforms. I'm going to shoot straight to customer segments. In car rental, it's not just the tourism segment that we deal with. It is various segments. And we split them, and I'll just mention the relevant one. First of all, we've got what you call inbound or long haul, which really is the international tourists that come into the country, into South Africa. Very, very important segment. And as we all know, it was affected by the COVID and lockdowns and flights that were not operating during the last financial year. Just to give you a sense, this segment really, the customers, and we'll show you now how the customers come through to us from this segment. The customers come through direct websites and through ABG Global license contracts. Just for the benefit of the Commission, ABG refers to Avis Budget Group, which is our principal who gives us the license to operate in South Africa and surrounding countries. They sign global contracts with intermediaries, global intermediaries, and we then benefit from those partnerships that have been signed. And then the second channel for the inbound are the direct websites. By direct websites, I mean the .co.za website. I mean the UK when I say the .co.za, I mean avis.co.za. The .de German, as in avis.de. UK .uk.co. So it's domestic and international websites. And then we've got another channel here, which really is for private companies, local companies in South Africa, travel consortiums, insurance companies. That is not what we're discussing here, but for completeness, we actually put it up there because it does not include online platforms. We just put it there for completeness. Then we have the public sector. Also, it does not involve platforms. Actually, we go through tenders, open tenders on this one. And then we've got individual customers. Individual customers also come through our website. Sometimes they go through the global intermediaries and even local intermediaries and travel agents. That's what happens. And then we've got commercial segment. The commercial segment is really around local airlines and international airlines. We've got local partners like loyalty partners like e-bucks and so on and so on. So broadly, those are the channels through which we get our customer base. Okay. Is there any question before I move on?
No, I think finish the presentation, then we'll load our questions at the back. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so in summary, so those channels, how do our customers come through those channels? We've got international and local call centers. Customers can call in Germany, the local Avis, and then that will be rerouted to us. We've got domestic channels. They can call South Africa directly, and we can make the reservation. Then we've got the apps. We've got an Avis app where you can log in and book in. We've got a local one, we've got international one, depending which country you come from. Then we've got domestic and international websites. As we said, our own .co.za and the .de, the .com from the US, and so on and so on. Then behind the scenes, we've got a thing called, it's the rental system, it's called Wizard. Wizard is a global booking system that manages our inventory. And people will know that we've got a car available in South Africa, in Cape Town, because it's available on that system. So that system manages our inventory, and it's open to anyone to log in, whether it's a customer booking on the normal internet or whether it's a global rentalcars.com website. Okay, and then move to the next one. So then we've put a diagram here to just give you a sense of how the whole thing flows together. So indirect, it means they didn't come through our website, which is direct channels. We've got APG, which is our principal, and as you know, we operate under license from APG, who set up international global agreements, and all sub-licensees or licensees like us benefit from that. And we then put up our price. The same retail price that you see on our internet is the same price that rental.coms or car trawler sees. And then it really depends on the service that we provide and the things that make and attract our customers to us, like clean car, global brand, and so on and so on. Then we've got travel partners as well that actually attract customers on our behalf indirectly, and then they then send the customers through to us, and we book the car. And then we've got the international retail websites, booking.com and all of that. It's all in the presentation and the Word document that we sent to you. And then obviously we've got direct channel, which means we don't use third parties. We use Avis proprietary websites, whether it's domestic or international. Okay. Okay, then zooming deeper into the global intermediaries. So you've got global car rental brokers. An example of that is rentalcars.com. Customers there will see our price and availability, and they will see our customer ranking in terms of, are the customers happy with us? Out of 10, 9.9, 9.2, and then the customers will click on our offering, and then it will then come through to our Wizard, and it's booked because the inventory is available for everyone to show and book. And then we've got supermarket sites like Billiger Mietwagen, which is in continental Europe. Similarly, those supermarket sites, the customers can come through there, and they've got access to the inventory that we have in South Africa. And then we've got global airlines. These global airlines are signed by APG PLC. There is a global tender, so all the car rental companies around the world go and bid for this tender. And sometimes we win, sometimes we lose it, and we become the preferred partner. And when you book your flight, there is as you finalize your flights, and then it shows at the bottom there, if you want to book a hotel or book a car, then our logo shows there and you can book a car with us. And then we've got member affiliations. An example of that is Allgemeine Deutsche Automobil Club, which is effectively in Germany, where all the travel partners congregate around there, and we offer, we give them our rates and our service levels, and they click on us and they then come through and book a car. Okay. James and the team, chairperson and the team, I'm not going to go through what separates us. As you said, you just wanted to see how we link and how the platforms work. I'm not going to go through our competitive advantage as you've requested. I'm going to, because that was our conclusion, where we show why we have a competitive advantage: branch network, clean cars, superior experience of customers. We're going to leave there. Thanks.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Nkombisa. My name is Doris Tepe, and I'm happy for you to call me Doris. And I will...
we can't hear anything from our side. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Belinda, can you hear us?
I can hear.
Can you hear me, Belinda?
Yes, I can hear you, Doris.
Okay.
Yeah, Lita, can you hear?
Can you call them? The volume is up.
Can you hear me now?
Runes, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Lita, and I can also hear Doris.
Can hear people.
Let me try again. Can you hear me, Lita?
Can you just nod?
Can you nod if you can hear us? Did you hear the presentation? Runes, can you say something?
Yes, they're nodding.
Yes, Lita, can you hear me?
Sorry?
They all can hear us, but we can't hear them.
No, but we need to hear them.
We can hear you.
Maybe you need to reconnect the speaker.
No, just check your settings there, Lita.
Connect the speaker. That's what somebody suggested.
Can you hear us now? Can you say something, Runes?
I can hear you, Lita.
Perfect. Can you leave it like that, sir? Can you also not leave us here?
I'm just staying there for a while.
Okay.
Just outside.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we'll just have to live with the echo. I don't know if the technical team, if that's fine. No, I'm asking the technical team, is it fine? Yes, okay, thank you. Mr. Nkombisa, thank you very much for the presentation and for your time to come speak to us and give us some insight. We really appreciate it. And thanks to the whole team. I just wanted to just go back a little bit. You are one of the first to speak to us on the car rental space, and I just wanted you to just take us a little bit on just understanding the car rental space in South Africa. Our understanding, and you can confirm, is that in South Africa, the car rental space is dominated by global companies. And what I wanted to find out from you is, are there material local players? I know we have a Bidvest. Who else is there? And what are their share estimations from your side, if you could?
Okay. So just to give you, from my perspective, the landscape in the car rental in South Africa, what you have is the formal car rental that you see at the airports. But that is not the complete picture that you see. What you have really in South Africa is more small players that are all over, but in small towns, and that we actually don't measure those. They are in Knysna, they are in PE only. What is visible is just the global car rental companies that you see at the airports. So it's bigger than just the global companies. The size, or rather the market shares of those small players is unknown, but we know they exist because we bump into them in the marketplace. When we put tenders through, we see them through, especially in localized tenders. But in terms of the visible car rental companies, yes, you're 100% right. It is that it's dominated by the global car rental companies.
These small ones that you're referring to, Mr. Nkombisa, are they on online platforms? Have some relationships with, some relationship with airlines, or do you know any of that?
Not that I know of, but I can instinctively tell you that they capture the local market. If they are in Port Elizabeth and there is a tender in a local SOEs that is based there, they will tender for those 10 cars. It's really SMMEs and small businesses that have a few cars compared to the national operators like us, who are in each and every town, or rather who are all spread all over South Africa. Thanks.
Doris, if I may add to that as well, to your question. Also, the small car rental companies have got the options to put their brand onto the global platforms with the intermediaries. That is all up to themselves where they want to play in which market. But we do see them on a lot of these big intermediary platforms. So obviously, they will contract directly with them. And these intermediaries obviously also want to make sure they have as much fleet as possible on their global platforms, and that they are dealing with reputable companies. So quite often, I think the global brands like Avis Budget, Europcar, Thrifty and Hertz will have advantages because the brands are known globally, and it's a much easier sell on these platforms as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much, Belinda.
Pleasure.
Look, I'm going to move from this, but on your presentation that you sent to us, for example, you have a rentalcars.com, and they show, as you say, a selection of the brands they're working with in South Africa, and most of those smaller platforms are not there. So I'm sure we can find out more about that, but I'll move from that. Can I ask you to stop sharing the presentation just so we can see the faces? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just so I can go back to the global companies, I just wanted to understand, so like you, I presume that they will be entering into global deals with the intermediaries and the airlines generally?
Okay, so just to segment how the whole thing works, you have our ABG PLC, or principal in the UK, entering into global partnerships for the whole world with a rentalcars.com, and we in South Africa then put up our rate on their website as a beneficiary of having a license from ABG PLC. And then we participate in that marketplace, and it's a combination of brand recognition. It's a combination of service levels, superior customer service levels, and so on and so on. As to use that as an example, and the customer is free to choose which one they participate or which one they choose. Thanks. And then, Belinda, do you want to explain how the travel operators work? which is distinct from the rentalcars.com. Thanks.
So, Belinda, before you come in, if you don't mind, I just thank you, Mr. Nkombisa. I think if you just mute when I start talking, and then the echo doesn't come on. Thank you. I I think my question related more to the other global companies. I'm going to come to the relationship between Avis in South Africa and ABG and the global contract. So I don't want us to go there yet. All I was just asking is presumably the global car rental companies also have their principals, to use your words, enter into these global agreements with the intermediaries and the global airlines.
So everyone is on the, everyone is on those global intermediaries, participating and competing there.
Thank you, Mr. Nkombisa. I just wanted us to just move into another area, which is the car rental distribution. You touched a bit on that in your presentation, and I just wanted to understand really the importance of the different channels and that you spoke about, and the rough shares of their sales, if you may. Obviously, this is a public online inquiry, and so I'm not asking for you to share your confidential information, but I would like just estimations. Thank you.
So are you saying you want to know where is the biggest share of the
important channels that you spoke about? Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's in the presentation, but let me just. So you mean where do we get the bulk of the car rentals from those channels?
Yes.
Okay, so if I can I'll run down some of these. So walk-ins, people walking at the airport, is around 6.9% for us. Our own website, .co.za, avis.co.za, is about 18%. No. Then international websites, .uk, .de, 21%. And then the intermediary is around 10%. It's in the information that we provided to you. And the balance, around 50%, is through reservation office, stations, and so on and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Nkombisa. Would that include global, or are you including global airlines under the intermediation? Or is it under the other, the remainder?
Let me just confirm that quickly. It's in the other. You've got the airlines, like yeah, it's in the other.
Thank you for that. I mean, you just mentioned your website and your walk-in and which are your direct sales, but you still partner with the other channels, and I assume that is so because consumers are booking for car rental through them, so they are an important channel for you.
Yes, they are very important to us. Thank you very much.
So can you indicate the type of customer or consumer that is using these different channels?
So if you look at the inbound market, which is international, it's travel groups like families, friends coming to South Africa and booking through. It's individuals. It is never corporates. It's people coming on holiday in South Africa. Corporates typically book through travel agents, not through those channels. So it's really individuals, really for leisure, coming through to South Africa.
So presumably these ones would be more with the airline. They'd be booking through.
Both. So they can either book just a car at rentalcars.com or car trawler, or they can come through booking.com because they are booking accommodation, or they're booking a ticket and then it flashes that British Airways that you can also book a car. So it's different channels through which they can book a rental car.
Your local, I'm not going to touch the public sector, as you said, they are not on the online as is your commercial to some extent. But on the local market, your domestic traveler, which channels are they booking through?
So the local customer can either walk in at the airport or at our branch of airport and book a car. They can phone. We've got a call center doing reservations. They can go onto our website and book a car locally. What other channels? Or they can go through a travel agent. And while they are booking a ticket for an airline, they can also at the same time book a car through that travel agent. And that travel agent has got access to book or reserve the car on behalf of that customer through us. Those are the main channels. And then if it's a corporate, they either have a direct link with us, it's not on any platform, or they book through the travel agent.
I understood that. Thank you. Do you mind muting? Mr. Nkombisa? Yes, thank you. As I said, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the agreements that are negotiated globally. But before I start, I wanted to know through the domestic channels, like flights or intermediaries, do you negotiate that yourself as Avis in South Africa? Do you have any in South Africa where you've negotiated directly, maybe with an airline here or with a local intermediary platform?
Belinda, do you want to take that? The answer is yes, but I want Belinda to just explain that on the local airlines.
Yes, we do. We would obviously, especially with these new airlines, like any other company would like to have new business, we'd obviously approach them and ask if we can be on their website. Most of the airlines will actually put most of the bigger car rental companies on that to give a choice to the end user or the consumer. So we have negotiated directly with many of the airlines.
Thank you, Belinda. Just back to the global deals. I mean, you said in your presentation, Mr. Nkombisa, that what happens is that you are the beneficiary, meaning you then are the people who have to operationalize that locally. So you would need to submit your rates, you said. So, and you would have to know some of the terms as to how you do that. Do you want to just explain to us how you operationalize these global agreements that are reached by ABG for your benefit?
Do you want me to take that, Lita?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Belinda.
So obviously when we do win a tender or a big contract via ABG Group, be it in Germany, USA, or the UK, we will get a notification that we are a partner with that intermediary. And our rates, what we are doing is they will actually be pulling in exactly the same internet rates that we sell to the end user onto their platforms as well. And that whole platform is normally set up by our ABG group in the UK or USA. They will build those platforms with the relevant intermediary, and they will just make sure that our rates that we normally have will pull through. So any more questions on that, Doris? I'm not sure that's clear enough.
It is, and I'm going to speak a bit to monetization, because presumably when you go on a tender, there has to be some benefits to whoever you entering into the agreement with. But when we speak on pricing just now, I will get to that. And I say this because you say it's the same rates that they're pulling off the internet. So we'll talk about that just shortly. But then on the airlines, it has come out that the general norm is that you would partner with one or two airlines. But I just wanted to find out, is that the case, or globally, or can you, like you said, Belinda, in South Africa, partner with a lot more of the airlines?
We have got one or two that are bigger than the normal airlines, but we try and partner with as many as possible. And on some of them, we will also feature, although some of our competitors might have an exclusive deal somewhere. But we do try and partner as much as we can.
And the airlines, do they partner with, is it broader, or do they do one or two rental companies?
It depends on the airline. So some airlines, and I think it's very much because of the development costs involved, because their system needs to accommodate the booking channels. So it depends very much on the various airlines. So some will go with more than one partner, some will go with a variety. And then you also find that some of the intermediaries are not just a pure broker where they sell car rental, they also develop systems. And some of them will actually target smaller airlines that don't want to spend money on global systems. And they will actually put that up. So you'll find on a lot of the airlines, it will, if you go into it, it will look like an intermediary site with all the car rental companies on those platforms.
Thank you on that. I just wanted to understand, I mean, the sort of contracts you would then get with the airlines, are they time bound?
Sorry, Doris, I didn't get that. Type of contract?
I said, are they time bound? Is it a year contract, or is it 2 years, or are they?
Again, that could vary. So it depends on the airline, what they would like to do. So some of the bigger airlines might say we want a 3 or 5 year contract. Some of them will have a 1 year. So it really depends on the airline.
Typically with the bigger ones, so you're saying it would be between 3 to 5 years?
Correct. And the reason for that is when they go out on tender, because they normally will tender, and everybody will have the opportunity. So you'll even find the brokers will tender for that business as well. And that tender process could take anything from 6 months to a year. And they will then, and that's why the reason why they'll rather sign a longer deal with whoever won that contract.
Thank you, Belinda. Can I ask you, I mean, so in the tender process, What do you compete on? And it's the question I wanted to ask that I referred to earlier. Is it the price discount to be offered to consumers? And would an airline maybe get a commission out of that? It's just on the pricing, there must be some benefit.
Yeah. So if I can come in there, so when we tender for these for these contracts, it's a combination of things. The first one is the availability of fleet. The second one, so it doesn't help to win a tender when you haven't got the fleet. The larger your fleet, the more chances of you winning it. The second one, very important, it is the rating that the end consumer gives you as a car rental company. 9.2 out of 10, 8.7 out of 10, very, very important. And obviously, the rate per day, which we do rate per day, and we put up our rates for us to compete against everyone, and a combination of those and other peripheral things like, is the car clean, is the car new, is the car old, and then when ease of check-in and ease of check-out at the counter. In the times of COVID, there's even a thing where customers actually want clean, sanitized vehicles with a sign that shows that the car has been sanitized. They don't want any counter interaction. They want to do it online and without interacting and standing in a queue on the counter. So all of that, a combination of all those things, we put forward to in our tender, and we win or lose the tender based on that.
Just on the rate per day, and I'm asking this because Belinda was saying you almost take the rates you have on the internet and put them there. Presumably they can't be the same one as the ones you have on the internet. These must be the ones that you would have won the tender on, and so that's what I wanted to understand when I'm asking on. Is the discounting, do you provide commission? It's that kind of those terms that I just want you to speak a bit more on.
Yeah, Doris, we don't give them preferential rates. We do, as we mentioned, we actually, they normally just link up to our internet rates. And also bear in mind, our internet rates are set up depending on where the person comes from. So Germany, if the German person shops, he'll come from the DE site, the German site, or UK, and they'll pay in their currency. And that is basically how we work. Yes, everybody that book on the internet can earn a commission. So we don't make any discrepancies there. So be it a travel agent or a tour operator or a airline, they all will earn commission on our rates.
And that's not negotiated with you, the commission bit. It's what they would negotiate with the end user. Is that what you say?
No, that should normally be done by our global teams. So it wouldn't be negotiated with us as a local brand. It will be done there overseas with our principal. And they will negotiate a deal. And unfortunately, those contracts are very confidential, so we don't even see those as a local company. We just know that we will pay the standard commissions that we normally offer on our internets for prepaid or non-prepaid rate. There's a set commission on those.
Okay, thank you, Belinda. And you're saying there would be no discounting on pricing on this. So you don't have a standard rate card and then that you discount on, none of that.
Doris, normally we don't do discounting. It normally is linked to our rate. So if we look at our rate shops, we will decide if we have a lot of fleet standing, and if we want to decrease our rates a little bit, or if we want to increase our rates. And that's really how it works.
So Doris, the rate is not static, it's dynamic. Every day we look and we decide, oh, we need to increase the rate, or we've got our fleet, we've got a lot of fleet and our utilization is low, or our utilization is high, we must increase the rate. We make that decision on a dynamic daily, weekly, monthly basis. And simply the people that are booking it, they are booking on the rate, on the latest rate that we are putting up. Thanks.
Yes, you did say that in your presentation, that the rate, I mean, obviously, I would have seen that as well during peak times in December, try and get a reasonably priced car in Cape Town airport. It's almost impossible, yes. Thank you for that. Just on the commission, and I understand, Belinda, that some of these would be confidential, but I would imagine, and I don't want you to traverse confidential information, but when you're billing, obviously it will show on the invoice, and what I wanted to understand is there would be differences in commission allowed, and is it possible to give like just indication on the different channels, and hopefully that is not confidential?
Yeah, so I think maybe just, I think where the question is leading is, so we do find that when our global partners negotiate deals, there will be some marketing funds involved as well. So quite often we could see that a marketing fund might be utilized globally to subsidize a rate. So we won't see it on our invoice, because that's all done as part of the global deal, but it won't affect our rates or our commissions.
Just so I understand you, Belinda, so although those differentiation would happen, you won't know that because that is the discounting on the commission would have happened globally, not in South Africa.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, Belinda, could I just follow up? I mean, are you aware of what commissions are negotiated? Does that come when you sort of invoice, or does ABG globally take that out? I mean, at some point you've got to hand it over. So I suppose, I mean,
we have a set commission. One is for our prepaid. So if you have a prepaid rate, we normally can pay a higher commission, and a non-prepaid rate is a bit of a lower commission. And that's a standard globally that we have set up. When our ABG set up our rates for the global arena, that's what will happen on the rate and the various rate codes or rate settings.
All right. So, and I mean, could it be that some of your partners use some of their commission to also discount your rental cars?
Not really, because they actually get what we call a gross rate. And it's something that we have stopped because just my own view is, why would you sell out to a third party at a lower rate that you'd sell on your direct website? So that's just, that's from my point of view. That you actually want to make sure that everybody sells exactly the same rate. So if a consumer go into your website or onto a partner page, that they'll see the same rate appearing there.
All right, but because of marketing funds, you do see the discounting, and that's, I mean, what I understand, most of the intermediaries are selling consumers is a discount.
Not really our intermediaries. It's something we try not to do, but you'll have maybe the odd global airline that might do it, or affiliation where there is something in the contract. But I actually only, in all of our contracts, only know about 2 that does that.
Yeah, so sorry, if I can just finish off where Belinda left off. So we don't want to undercut ourselves, because we want direct customers as much as possible, because we don't have to pay commission. So if our rate is higher on the internet than third parties, customers will go to those third parties. So they will use that arbitrage between us and third parties. That's why we say to them, you pull our rate that is on the internet, because otherwise we undercut ourselves and it defeats the whole purpose. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nkombisa and Belinda. Can I just ask, I mean, just moving to Avis South Africa and just to understand, do you use local intermediaries platforms? So just to be clear, not the airlines. Belinda has answered that, but are there local platforms that you use?
They are, but I have to admit they are much smaller than your global partners. And probably the reason for that it would be the costs involved, probably to set up that type of platform where you want to actually play in the international field. So I would imagine for a local player, it's extremely expensive to do that type of thing. But wherever we can, we will partner with the smaller players as well.
So do you partner with them in South Africa? And which
Yes.
ones, Belinda?
We have, I'm trying to think now off the top of my head, we have RAF, which is in Cape Town, Drive Away, and Drive SA. Just at the top of my head, I can think of now. Those are the smaller players.
Thank you, Belinda. And just so I understand the commission structures they would have, would it be similar to what you were referring to with the global ones, where there would be like a marketing fund where the commission could be discounted, or is it just you agree with them on a commission and that's it?
It would be the commissions. Yeah, we don't enter with the same type of, because it's also the volumes are very different. So we don't, as Avis South Africa, enter into the same marketing funds that's on the global platforms, because that's a ABG doing that.
Presumably ABG does that in order to engage with the intermediaries. So you don't see the need for doing that with the smaller guys in South Africa?
Doris, so we normally set up our marketing funds as a certain percentage of revenue spent in the prior year. So whatever revenue they have spent with us, we're always happy to pay that over and do a mutual brand orientation or whatever it is. But it's normally, like I say, because the volumes are so much smaller, it's a much smaller number that you see. But the percentage is the same for us in South Africa.
So what do you spend the marketing fund on generally?
We normally put it aside, Doris, and they will come through to us and suggest what they would like to do with the marketing funds, be it maybe they want to run a competition, or they want to run some brand awareness, whatever it is, or just do something on their websites. And we then normally sign it off and we'll say, yes, it goes with our strategy, or it doesn't. So it's normally a dual partnership talking about it.
Thank you, Belinda. Can I just ask, I mean, I know you said you don't, and Lita explained a bit more on the discounts. Given that these are small platforms, and you just spoke, Belinda, a bit about how expensive the business of platform is, be it technology or any of that. Do you not see a need in assisting them in any manner? You've just said you don't do with marketing fund. I was just asking, could you be using marketing fund or discounting in any way to enable them to push the sort of volumes that would make them profitable or more competitive?
So Doris, I think one has to look at the type of company that you deal with. So some of our loyalty partners in South Africa, we have gone and we have done a joint venture on developing platforms. But obviously those platforms are very much South African based. So it's not the expensive platforms that you will find going out and competing on a global, international levels. For us, just looking at marketing spend, those platforms is something that's very, very expensive, and as a company, very hard to actually go and build, especially if there's not going to be volumes.
So, sorry, Doris, I just wanted to add something here. I don't know if you participated in the conversation that the Commission had with Rounes Leroux, where he explained how the global partners occupy the Google Prime advertising space, where when you search for car rental, they just appear at the top, even ahead of car rental companies themselves. So I think you must take this conversation in conjunction with the conversation that you had with Rounes Leroux, who's our analyst, who's on the line now. Thanks.
Thank you. I am going to have time, I hope, Chair, to talk a little bit on that with you, about you, just a little bit. But I know James wanted to ask something before I move on.
Just to respond, Belinda, exactly in this context, it's those global companies that are going to appear at the top. And I suppose if they're getting global support and marketing spend, and then it does create a potentially unlevel playing field if we're going to try and have local players start to try and compete as well. And that's why I think Doris's question was almost, is there not a need? Or we're going to end up just with the global players dominating the South African landscape too, and what can be done to support domestic platforms as well? Because if the global ones have marketing support, if they can use some of that to discount the prices and make it more attractive, there's not much that a domestic player can do in that battle.
Yeah. So if I can just clarify that when we talk about the intermediaries, the brokers, we don't actually do anything with them. We will support where we have won tenders with like one or two of the big international airlines. That's where we will be putting marketing funds in. But the actual brokers, the intermediaries, and Rounes can come in here as well. These are guys with a lot of international money behind them. They actually are playing those fields on their own. So we don't actually put marketing funds towards them, like the rental cars or the car trawlers. They are doing it, and they are spending the money basically on Google, making sure that they get all of that at the top. And if you do certain car rental searches, that they will appear. So with us, we are very much, I can say, dedicated to and there are two global airlines that we are partnering with. That's where we actually put our marketing funds with. Yeah. So I think we need to make sure there's a distinction between those. We talk about them as intermediaries, but it's very much your global airlines, and we've really got two very big ones. And then you've got your brokers, which is a totally different playing field, actually.
And do the brokers get a discount? Because they do discount from your submission. You know, they offer reduced excesses, they do the like. Are you telling us that that's off their own bat?
Yes, so they do. So what we see, and I know that our ABG partners has taken them on some of it as well. They actually self-insure on some of these platforms. So they try and sell insurance. When they buy a car, they've got their own insurance department underwriting that, which has got nothing to do with us. They get exactly, so when you go and rate shop and you look at rental cars or Avis, so if you look at Avis Germany or Rental Cars Germany, you'll see exact same pricing.
All right. I mean, we're just trying to understand how they're able to discount, I suppose. You know, in the long game, they can't just fund discounts. So surely, I mean, there's some negotiation at some point around rates given the volumes they send to you. Or are they just using the commissions that you provide in a normal sense to discount on, and rather than take a commission?
So they actually, if you go and look at them and us, we'll have exactly same sell-out rate. So I'm not sure where the discounting is coming in, and if I can just talk as an observation from our own perspective, that we do know that they get a very different rate structure from competitors, and there they are selling lower than our competitors' own websites. So, and that is purely because they're getting what we call a net rate from most of the competitors, and that net rate is extremely low. So they are selling at a much lower rate, and we know their margins are quite big. So with us, they don't get a discount. You can go and check our sites versus their sites, exactly same pricing out there.
Yeah, so also I wanted to quickly add something here. The way South Africa, the local South Africans consume car rental is different from people sitting in continental Europe. And if you want to come to South Africa, you're either booking through rentalcars.com or you're booking a hotel and then you book a car rental. In South Africa, we don't have the scale of those intermediaries that you see elsewhere in the world. So customers book through our internet. In fact, our internet direct is high, and if you look at our call center, it's high. Or if you look at our travel agent who are doing the end-to-end journey of the customers from the hotel to the car rental, that's how they consume car rental here in South Africa, as opposed to someone in Germany who's doing it through those global platforms. I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Thank you. You did when you were explaining the various channels, you did explain those percentages. Thank you so much. I think I was being a bit ambitious about going into the Google discussion with you. Clearly not going to happen. In fact, our next participants are already joining. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Nkombisa, and your team for coming to share your insights with us. I'll leave it to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and all the best for the festive season. You're welcome to leave now. We're going to welcome Caroline Everard from eDreams, which may or may not be a platform that South Africans are very familiar with. But I'd like to invite Ms. Everard onto the virtual stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome, Ms. Everard.
Hello. Hello, nice to meet you. Can you see me?
We can't see you. We can hear you. It would be good to see you too.
I don't. I have a message informing me video is not working, and I don't know why, because I commonly use Teams. Check. Should I quit and maybe try to rejoin? I don't know if it's a technical issue on my side. Let me try this. Sorry.
That's fine. Please do.
Hello again. No, I still have the same information message saying that the video cannot work, and I have this message.
Yeah, with Ms. Everard, I mean, obviously it's ideal to see you, but we're rather pressed for time this afternoon, so I think let's proceed.
Well, I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
Not a problem. Can you see us?
I perfectly see you. Yes.
All right. So I'm James Hodge, the chair, and I'm joined by Ms. Doris Tsepe, who is a panel member, and then the technical team, who I think you've interacted with. Ms. Everard, I know you've got a presentation, and do you want to see if you can share that with us so we at least see your presentation?
Sure. Okay, I don't know why it seems I don't have the full features that I usually have on Teams. Oh, me. Can you see my presentation?
We can now. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
So if you want to just take us through, maybe in no more than 15 minutes, and then we've got questions as a follow-up.
Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Caroline Evrard, in charge of antitrust and competition law matters for eDreams, and I'm based in Barcelona, in Spain.
Sorry, Caroline, we've lost your presentation. I don't know if you've done anything that's made it disappear.
Not to my knowledge. Let me go back to Teams. What happened? Can you see it now?
Yeah, it's back up.
Okay, for some reason I don't see you anymore, but if you can see my presentation, I will not touch the screen anymore. And we'll try to compensate the time we've already lost. Sorry about this.
Not at all. We'll definitely give you the extra minutes for the technical stuff. So please go ahead.
Can you just confirm to me you're seeing the second slide? Just that
We are, yes.
Okay. So a few words about eDreams. So the group is 20 years old and started with eDreams, a startup founded in 1999. 10 years later, they acquired 3 OTAs and 1 meta search engine, which lead that of today, the group is a global OTA, or online travel agent, active through 5 brands, which are eDreams, GoVoyage, Opodo, Travelink, and Liligo. Multiple websites and active in 45 countries. eDreams is a European market player headquartered in Spain and listed on the Spanish stock exchange. We hope you will find useful this European perspective that we can bring today in our discussion as we compete strongly against US and national players. Another key feature that I wanted to share with you is that we are historically a flight-centric business with a strong expertise and investment made in flight distribution technologies over the past 20 years. But we are a growing and expanding groups aiming at extending the portfolio and providing to our consumers a one-stop shop experience. A few figures maybe to give perspective, in particular after the severe crisis that affected the travel industry. eDreams is the largest European group of companies active in travel, as you can see on the figures showed on the left part of the slide. A statistic I would like to comment more with you is the rate of mobile bookings that has been increasing over the past years. This is a worldwide trend, coming up to 55% in the past month. This mobile booking rate is important, and I will rediscuss it in our later discussion regarding online visibility on the search result page. Some other figures relate to our inventory that we are able to activate for our consumers: more than 650 airlines, more than 2 million hotels, and several thousand flight routes covered by search on our platform. This presentation is also the opportunity for me to share more insights about the advantages brought by OTAs on the market and to consumers. So let me share with you why OTAs, and in particular eDreams, are critical key players in the travel industry. First, OTAs are increasing the interbrand competition because we are able to compare suppliers' offers and offer booking functionalities on one single platform. So this brings market transparency for flights, for accommodation, and for car rentals. But not only do we surface existing offers from suppliers, but OTAs are also able to create offers by combining options of different suppliers, by offering packages or cross-faring options. Cross-faring options relate to the fact that we are able to provide an outbound with one airline and offering the return to the consumer with another airline, which would not be possible, obviously, on the platform of the airline concerned. OTAs are also a factor of competitive dynamics because we're able to develop innovative products and services linked, for example, to enriched customer service or subscription programs giving access to important discounts. Most of those advantages are offered to South African consumers by eDreams since 2012. And this makes a perfect transition for me to discuss about eDreams in South Africa. So we've been operating our platform since 2012, and the website is za.edreams.com. We offer the possibility to South African consumers to search, compare, and book travel options such as flights, hotels, packages, and car rentals. As this was suggested in our exchanges, I will now focus the presentation on the access conditions to the market, and in particular, the challenges that we may or could meet while being active on the South African market. I don't know if you want me to directly pursue my presentation or if you already have some questions you would like me to answer.
I think carry on.
Okay.
And take your time on this particular part, as well as I think you've got some annexures if you feel those are important.
Exactly, I will surely do. So let me start by insisting on the fact that SEM, or the ads paid channel, and the SEO, the organic free channel, are both critical to get visibility on result pages of search engine and also to connect with consumers. This is not only essential to be visible on those channels, but it's also important to appear in top results to attract the clicks. We identify two major concerns regarding visibility and ranking in South Africa, but also more globally on the search results pages. The first concern we have is the lack of transparency regarding ads. Over the years, clarity decreased, creating confusion with information space that is available in the SEO section. The consequence of this is the increase of traffic acquisition cost as ads get more clicks than information, further to this confusion. The surveys show that people do not always click on ads with awareness of their particular nature. The second concern relates to the loss of visibility of organic results. One, this loss of visibility is due to the problem of identification that I've just mentioned. And maybe I can comment here about the screenshots I've put on this slide. So those screenshots are showing, that further to a search on the mobile, this is the screen that a consumer would see further to his search. And as I don't know if the pictures are big enough, what can be observed is that on the ad section, the labeling ad is in black and written in a very neutral way, whereas for the organic search that appear on the fifth screen at the extreme right of the slide, the organic results appear with a logo called a favicon in front of them. This change is very recent. I think it was implemented in 2020 by Google and created a lot of confusion for consumers because they had less visibility over the labeling of the ads, and on the contrary, the logo of favicon that is put in front of organic results could give the impression that this was sponsored or paid by the particular brands concerned to have such eye-catching feature appearing. So coming back to the loss of visibility, this loss of visibility is first due to a problem of identification for consumers to identify clearly what is an ad, what is a paid result, and what is a purely relevant non-paid result. There is also a loss of visibility because those organic results are pushed down by the flight units owned and powered by Google. As you may have observed, this unit that we will call Google Flights or Flight Unit is systematically placed between ads and organic results in a prominent space-taking way. This is all the more true in a mobile environment where screen space is limited. As you could appreciate on the screenshots on the screen, the third mobile extract is fully dedicated to the flight unit. On the screenshot displayed, we can observe that organic results only appear starting the fifth screen, meaning that you have to scroll down 5 times before a consumer, a South African consumer in this example, would have access to the informational space of the result. eDreams consider this position and this display shows a preferential bias by Google delivered via visual prominence, higher guaranteed ranking, and immunity from algorithm. What we mean by that is that the flight unit is systematically placed between ad and organic results, as I already shared with you, but is also systematically benefiting from eye-catching visual features that are most likely to attract the consumer's attention. By doing so, Google Flights benefits from unjustified market penetration that is not based on merits. The consequence is a loss of visibility and of traffic for all the competitors that are answering to any travel search-related search. The consequence is not only a loss of visibility and traffic, but it also creates a dependency on Google Flights, as there is a strong incentive for suppliers, but also for OTAs to be listed there, as this box is most likely attracting clicks from consumers. Those allegations that I'm sharing with you question the nature of the flight unit. Is it organic? Could it be licitly appearing in the first position of organic results? We challenge strongly this position for several reasons. Indeed, we don't believe that the flight unit is an organic box for several reasons. First, organic means that the listings should be based on relevance for users. On the contrary, to appear on Google Flights, it is mandatory to be a partner and to sign a partnership agreement with Google. To date, we are not aware of any similar restrictions for organic results. The second is, secondly, relevance implies filter according to customers' needs and expectations. What happens is that Google Flights should accordingly surface all relevant offers of its suppliers' inventory. This is not what is observed, as in many cases, our content, so eDreams content, is not displayed. This shows a content restriction that is detrimental to consumers as less relevant choices are offered to them. Another statement we would like to clarify is the fact that Google Flights is free of charge. Free of charge would refer to the referral links that are not charged to the suppliers, being in this case the airlines and the OTAs. First, regarding context, we would like to highlight that this gratuity, this free of charge, is very recent since it was implemented since January 2020. Before 2020, a cost per click was owed to Google as it is commonly charged by other meta search. This recent change of business model is interesting indeed, because to our knowledge, no other meta search would be able to do so and offer gratuity to its suppliers. This likely shows that Google is not subject to rivals' pressures and can take the risk of operating at loss. The second element we would like to highlight in the context of this free of charge tool is that it should also be noted that though no commission is charged, the partnership agreement that is necessary to sign to have access to the Google Flights contain obligations to share data. In such case, we don't consider that having access to the Google Flights Unity is free of charge, or is indeed completely free of valuable information. We believe all those elements converge to identify an abuse of dominance of Google, breaking competition on the merits by giving preference to its flights unit. We would like to pursue the presentation with references to recent relevant cases that we believe can give some highlights and more insights regarding our position. So what is interesting in terms of precedence is that the Google Flights sector, the flight sector has already been studied by a competition authority in India in 2018. What is interesting in this decision is that the Competition Commission of India identified an abusive practice relating to the flights unit. A more recent case linked to the shopping sector is also very relevant in this context, as it's bringing some key takeaways in the context of the competition law analysis. We are referring here to the recent decision of the General Court in the shopping sector. This decision confirmed the anti-competitive nature of self-preference through more favorable display and positioning on its result pages. Though we are perfectly aware that a case analysis would be necessary and required regarding flights, the principles highlighted by the General Court seems clear and applicable to all sectors. We rely in particular on the strong statement appearing on the screen, considering that the nature of a search engine must exclude any self-preference practice. What we find particularly strong in this General Court decision is the reference to abnormality, while the General Court is making reference to a search engine implementing a promotion of its particular own tools. Another key takeaway we would like to have a chance to maybe discuss with you relates to the possible remedies that should be implemented around such abuse. Under the recent decisions taken around the shopping sector, the conclusion is that Google needs to grant rivals equal access to the search result page. What is interesting in this recent decision is that allowing rivals to upload content on the particular unit is not a remedy, as it turns rivals into customers. In other terms, considering that being listed on the shopping unit, or in our case, on the flight unit, could be a considered remedy is not relevant, as it would lead to eliminate any types of competition, as the competitors would need to be strongly dependent on Google. I think I will stop my presentation here. I try to respect the time allocated, and I'm now available for any question or clarification you may need.
Thank you, Ms. Everett. You did within the allocated time, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming to engage with us. You actually covered some of the introductory questions we had, particularly on Google and monetizing and what the experience has been in Europe, because that was the experience in South Africa, that prior to Jan 2020, it was monetized, and that has since changed. You've also spoken about the impact of Google Flight on your business. There are just some few things I wanted to talk to you about. You spoke about the drop in organic traffic as a result of a Google change of the page, particularly on mobile, where you have ads at the top and then the Google Flight unit, and then organic going further down. What I wanted to ask you is how much a drop have you seen as eDream as a result of this change in search results? Both on organic and then the next one would be on paid traffic.
Paid traffic. So first, I would like to confirm this conclusion that we indeed observed a switch of clicks. Just for clarification, are you referring here to the confusion that is implemented through the between ads and organic results, or also referring to the switch of clicks due to the pushing down by the Google Flights unit?
The last one, the pushing down.
The last one, okay. So this is obviously a topic that we've been monitoring very closely. I would say that because this is not a public information, it's not something I can comment with particular figures right now, but we would be happy to share those with you, maybe in a more confidential manner. Another element I would like to bring to your attention is that we've been monitoring this practice for a while, but the crisis that occurred since March 2020 suspended, or I would say at least froze those practices, as the ads, the SEM section was cut, I would say, during 1 year. Well, it depends on the countries, but in many countries, suppliers stopped to publish ads because there was no traffic possible due to the travel restrictions. So we could have some figures we can share with you. They are dated before the COVID-19 crisis, and I can just confirm that it's something that we're still monitoring now that the market is recovering.
Thank you, Ms. Everett, and we didn't want you to traverse any confidential information you have. I was just hoping for orders of magnitude, but if you can't, that's fine. If you could just send that through to us. Can I just go to the impact of this on consumers? We had, when we were speaking on travel with another global provider, that how the screen has changed. Essentially, what you do is you go directly to the booking flight. So with flights, Google takes you directly to booking for the flight, the results of which is you bypass the other parts of a platform website or app that would give you all the other services that you provide. Is that the case with flights? Is that your experience?
I'm sorry, could I check my understanding of the question, as I experimented some technical cuts.
No,
So the
I
question
can
is
repeat
that
if you experience some technicalities. So maybe let me start the question differently. Is I would imagine eDream offers consumers some benefits as an intermediary. There would be some other services, like there would be reviews on the flights that you're looking at, different seats, if there are other added benefits on be it insurance or anything. So if that is so, or maybe let me ask that and you answer me. What are the consumer benefits you provide as eDreamers?
Okay, so the advantages we are providing to consumers is first providing transparency and neutral comparison by displaying further to a particular search made by a consumer all the relevant offers that are relevant to their search. Sorry, because I took the example here of flights, but this is also applicable, I would say, for hotels or car rentals. So what we are providing to the consumer is on a single platform, the ability to search, compare, and book pursuant to their travel needs. The second thing is that we are also able to, so not only showing them existing offers, but we are also able to build offers for them. By that, I mean that we are able either to make a combination of flights or a combination of different travel services, such as flights plus hotel, depending on what they are searching for. And we are also able to create new services, offering them new services. For example, I'm thinking of the free for cancellation free service that we are able to offer them as a guarantee for them to book and not being without any alternative option. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. In fact, you went a little bit more detailed. The point was the way the Google flight the experience, the journey a consumer would go to is having gone through the unit. If they clicked, they would go directly almost to the final page of booking, such that all the consumer sees would be price. So leaving it more to a price competition and not looking at the other services or advantages or benefits that you've just spoken about. Is that your experience?
No. So what I would like to answer to your question is that first, when you are on the search result page, what you see from Google Flights is a list of airline offers. You just see the airline offers and not the OTA offers. So which means first that you will don't have access to the exhaustive offers existing relating to one route, because in some cases OTAs are able to provide discounts. So this first you will not see on the search result page. Then once you click on the flight unit, you can further your search, meaning that you can specify the dates, specify maybe the company with which you wish to travel. And still on this first page, Google will display only the airline that are covering this route and an estimated price that is applicable for this offer. The only moment that you will be able to see potentially an OTA offer is at the end of the funnel, once you have, as a consumer, decided to opt for a particular airline. When you click on this airline, then at this moment you will be able to see potential OTA competitive offers. But so this happens at the end of the funnel and not directly when you are starting your search, meaning that potentially the consumer could not have the full awareness of the range of options he would have, because this exhaustiveness will only occur for a particular airline. And after this consumer has already selected a particular time and airline relating to his search.
Thank you for that clarification. That's quite useful. I mean, in your view, does then Google Flight is Google Flight does it offer a better service or benefits to the consumer? Are the consumers better served by Google Flight? I guess that's my question.
Yes. Okay. So as I was saying earlier, first to be listed, so to have suppliers offers listed on Google Flights, then those suppliers need to have signed a partnership agreement with Google. So I would say, and obviously I don't have the full view over Google's inventory, I would say that first, the routes the airlines covered are only the ones that have signed a partnership agreement with Google. So this is a potential restriction that would exist, as it would need to be checked if Google has signed a partnership agreement with a sufficient number of airlines to provide a full inventory. Second thing, we have observed that Google sometimes do not push for the most accurate price, meaning that in some cases they put an estimated price and it's not the final price that would indeed be offered by the airline. So on the basis of those two elements, I would say that Google offers advantages to the consumers in the fact that while pushing this box, you may have access to a first idea. So I would say you have an idea of the benchmark of potential airlines that would cover the route you may wish to book for. I would say that you would have an idea of the prices you would pay, but I wouldn't say that this box provide the most relevant information to the consumer because it's not providing to the consumer, or it's not transparent vis-à-vis the consumers about the potential restrictions that are applicable to this display. It's not saying to the consumer that the display is not exhaustive, and it's not saying that the price is not systematically the most accurate. And the point I think I would like to make relating to your question is about the benefits brought by Google Flights Unit. I have no doubt that there are benefits to the consumers. Otherwise, I could imagine that consumers would not click on this particular flight unit. But the point to be made under competition law is that should this box appear systematically in top position of organic results, or in a position that is between ad and organic, what we are challenging in our analysis is that we don't believe that having this box systematically appearing between ads and organic results without being subject to the relevance algorithm is fair competition. And indeed, I remember that there was an article written by an SEO expert a few years ago analyzing the Google Flight Unit and saying that should this box be subject to the SEO criteria that are applied by Google for relevancy in the organic results, most likely this box would not appear on the first page of the search results. Why? Because, as you may be aware, to build relevance, to build top position on the organic results, it requires from market players consistent and important investments in terms of people, but also in terms of content. To be considered relevant by the Google algorithm, you need to constantly update content and information. Whereas the Google Flight Unit seems more to be a box displaying or just surfacing information from its suppliers, but you don't have any more quality information.
Thank you so much, Ms. Everett. You have touched on some of the questions I was going to engage with you on possible remedies, which is quite helpful. Before I get to remedies, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, we've seen even from your presentation that there's been a lot of evolution in the Google model, even with flights. Where do you think Google Flights is going in your view? And do you have any ideas?
This is a tough, tough and fair question.
I know.
I would expect that Google would be more in a position to answer than myself. What I can share with you around this question is that we are concerned by the recent changes that Google has implemented regarding this box. We are concerned. Why? Because first, this change of business model that occurred in 2020, as I was sharing with you, we are concerned that potentially this could lead to a predatory practice. We are not aware of many market players that are able, all of a sudden, to stop getting paid by their suppliers to provide them a service. So we are questioning, we don't have the answer, but we are questioning what this change of business model could lead to.
And in terms of monetization and content, I mean, you've already said that in terms of the partnership agreement, there's a lot of, they require sharing of data. I know I'm asking you to speculate, but I'm imagining being in the space and in Europe and its impact, you would have thought about some of these issues.
Yes, sorry, I'm not sure of the question you want to raise here.
No, don't worry. I think I'll just go to remedies. I was just saying, in terms of the evolution of the business model, if you thought that Google may be wanting to monetize at some point later, but it's fine. You have touched on a number of the remedies that you think you should think about. The one thing I wanted to ask you, do you know, following the shopping case, do you know if the EU is looking on any case on Google Flights?
So what happened is that eDreams lodged in 2012 a complaint in front of the European Commission regarding the flight unit. And because at this moment the European Commission received several complaints regarding Google, but dealing with different sectors, they decided to prioritize the shopping sector, most likely because that's where they had maybe more data or more insights. So regarding we lodged a complaint already. As of today, the European Commission has not discarded our complaint, but neither has it started really investigating it. And we've been in regular discussion with them, and what we understand is that first there was a will to finalize, to finish this shopping sector investigation and decision, because most likely this could bring some important key insights to treat other potential abuse of Google regarding the SERP. So we have in a nutshell, we have a pending complaint in front of the European Commission. And further to this decision of the General Court, we are assessing what will be the next steps regarding the flight sector.
Thank you, Ms. Everett. Just on some of the possible remedies, obviously, were we to find that there are issues, particularly on self-preferencing and the unit. So the way I just want to know if I understood you, just what some of the proposals you have. Is the suggestion that organic should go even above ads, or the removal of the unit altogether?
Yeah, so I would say that a good starting point is obviously the competition principles, which is Google have to provide equal access to the search results to any market players. So starting from here, I would say that it's very likely that one solution would be to remove first this flight unit benefiting from visual prominence and also eye-catching features. So one solution would be that the Google Flight Box would be subject to the organic algorithm. So meaning that they wouldn't have this guaranteed top position on the first page of the SERP. And second, I would say the visual prominence should most likely disappear because it's not equally accessible to its competitors, which makes the links with the inclusion on the Google Flight Unit, because maybe it could be alleged that to have access to this visual prominence, to those eye-catching features, the competitors should appear within the Google Flight Unit. But as I was sharing with you earlier, the main key takeaway that we are taking for the General Court decision of the 10th of November is that an acceptable remedy could not be to appear on this particular box, because indeed it would force the competitors to switch their business model and to become customers of Google rather than remaining their competitors. So obviously, from a competition law point of view, it cannot be accepted that to remedy an abusive conduct, you should eradicate competition and eradicate competitors.
Thank you, Ms. Everett. I'm just going to hand over to Mr. Hodge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Everett, I mean, just to explore the other options. So for instance, can you have a sort of flights box where your icons are, and the consumers click through to their preferred aggregator to search in a more detailed fashion on their site? So if I put in flights to Paris, as you had there'd be a few OTAs or meta search engines icons appear, and those can include Google Flights, and then the consumer taps on and is taken to a landing page which has flights for Paris.
I would say that this could be a solution to be explored, but the limit I would identify is the exhaustiveness, because on the SERP, the space is limited. And so if you want to be fair and so display all the relevant offers displayed by either airlines plus the offers pushed by OTAs for the same routes, it would likely to actually, this box would actually look like the third page that you would click on, that you would have access on once you have already clicked on the Google Flight Unit. I don't know if I'm clear here, but my point is that because of the limited screen space, and all the more again on a mobile environment, it doesn't seem that having a repertory of all existing offers appearing on this SERP would be an acceptable remedy. And also, I mean, in terms for the consumer, it would be probably kind of confusing to have all those information directly appearing, while it should be noted, usually when a consumer is making a research, is not putting in the search bar the particular dates or even the schedule that he wants. Usually a consumer will type flight Johannesburg to Paris, or just destination, or maybe outbound and return, but there will not be all the details that would allow OTAs to push for the particular relevant offer they are able to propose in this case.
Ms. Everard, I've just got one last question, and then I'll just check with the other team members if they have any more. But we have been also experimenting with Google Assistant, the voice assistant on your mobile phone, and sometimes when you put in travel queries, the Google Travel unit comes up alone, not general search results, but just the travel unit. Is this something you are tracking, and does it interest you at all?
This is definitely a topic that we are interested in. I would say it doesn't only happens with vocal search. It also happens sometimes further to specific queries that the Google unit will directly appear on the top of the SERP and without any ads. It's a practice I would say we are monitoring, but obviously because of the lack of transparency of what Google is doing, I mean, it's very difficult to make conclusive findings regarding, I would say, screenshots that we would be making, but we don't have all the background algorithm history or why would such display would appear in this case, and in some other case it would be a different display.
Well, maybe just my question then is from your perspective, do you think voice-assisted search is something that's going to grow in the mobile space, or is likely to remain niche, at least for travel and flights?
We are aware that this is a growing trend that we are monitoring, but I would say unfortunately, I don't have much more insights to share with you relating to this.
Mr. Everard, thank you very much for coming to assist the public inquiry, and I'm sure we'll be following up with other requests, given that now there are more different rulings emerging globally, and it would be good to interact with you and your team going forward as well. We explored obviously some remedies in a hypothetical here, but once we have more specific findings, we can determine whether there's something to be done or not. So thank you very much, and you're welcome to leave the virtual stage now, and we're going to invite Intercape onto our virtual stage. Thank you.
Thanks for your time, and again, we're happy to contribute to this market investigation. Feel free to ask clarifications and follow up with us. Thanks and bye.
Is that Sean Smeeder from Intercape?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Sean. I'm James Hodge. I'm the chair, and I've got with me Ms. Doris Tsepe, who is the fellow panel member, and that makes up the panel. We've also got the technical team here. Just to remind you that you are being broadcast publicly on YouTube, so please don't traverse confidential information. I believe you don't have a presentation, sir. We thought we'd just lead you through the various areas that we're interested in, and including, obviously, quickly contextualizing Intercape. But I'm going to ask our technical team member, Apiwe Nanto, to lead you through that, if you don't mind, Sean.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, yourself.
I'm good, thank you. Sean, thank you very much for making the time. I'll get straight to it. So my first question is, can you please start by giving us a background of Intercape? When did Intercape start to operate? Which routes does Intercape operate in? And what services does Intercape provide to the public?
Thank you. So I'm going to try and sum up and be as brief as possible. So Intercape started off in 1978 in South Africa specifically. It was founded by the late Mr. Johan Ferreira. And yeah, we started in 1978 in South Africa per se. And we focus on intercity long distance passenger transport. And we're currently the biggest privately owned in the industry at the moment. And yeah, we're not only focusing with traveling within South Africa, we also have the options of traveling cross border to our neighboring country, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique. So yeah, I think that's us in a brief. And yeah, I guess we see ourselves as the leaders in the game.
Thank you for that, Sean. Intercape has been in the market for decades. So
Well, maybe, sorry to interrupt, maybe just to add to the routes you asked, so without going into the routes, because there's plenty, but I can say there's basically no area within Southern Africa or South Africa that we do not include in our route network. To mention all of them is just going to be a very, very long time.
Okay, thank you for that, Sean. I would like to ask, since you guys have been in the market like for so long, how has the South African market of distributing bus tickets evolved over the years?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate. I've been with this specific company for 22 years. So I saw much of the growth happening over the years and how the channels changed. If I can go back, I think we all used to the old Amadeus systems and stuff we had back in the day, where you physically you need to have a ticket to board a coach. And back then you depended on your own offices and you depended on travel agencies, like your traditional Harvey World, to mention a few. The local butchery sold tickets in the small little towns. So yeah, that's where everything started, and with time, it evolved. And I think it's only till a little late, early 2000s when we really start switching off and when more and more retailers got involved. I think it took a bit of a while for people to accept the concept to go into retailers, to name a few: Shoprite, Checkers, Pick n Pay, Spars, all of those. Where you could have purchased your ticket, or you can now still purchase your ticket. And then obviously online came in a bit later. How did the South African market adapt to online bookings? I guess that's where the question is going to. Specifically on the lower LSM in South Africa, it's something that's not. It's very difficult to change to change the behavior of how people are shopping, especially online. And we can break it down per region, but it's definitely it's not such an easy cookie to crack. Although past COVID, the internet is one of our biggest growing. Our own internet website sales is one of the biggest, the quickest growing, and I think that's mostly to do with COVID. COVID kind of changed the behavior. Why do you want to go to Johannesburg Park Station, for example, if you can book your ticket, online? And obviously online, there's quite a few guys that they do. So, yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And your response, it takes me to the next question that I was about to ask about the uptake of online sales. So as you mentioned that the market, like people or consumers are purchasing online, it's still growing. There may be any challenges that they are faced with when it comes to them purchasing these bus tickets online.
I think the options, there's so many options available. There's a lot of, and you will know, there's a lot of overseas companies investing also a lot of money in getting the SEO rankings and everything up there to appear first on search engines to make tickets available out there. So challenging wise, I think the biggest thing is trust. You know, for somebody, and if I take our market specifically, somebody that worked hard for a year, saving up their money and to go, you know, to go on holiday, whatever the case might be, you know, people don't have that specific trust yet with purchasing online, feeling comfortable doing payments online. And that's when you normally start losing, you know, a lot of the people. You know, people tend to have that cash in here. They feel much safer swiping or tapping the card at an outlet or at the office. But I think it's a lot of safety, and I think it's about awareness. I mean, we've tried to run several awareness campaigns, but I think it's about awareness, you know, informing people about, you know, it's safe to do this online. It's the norm. And there's a big investment from a lot of overseas companies in the moment. You know, it's trying to change the behaviors as well. We, for one, is trying our utmost, but I think it's the challenges is specifically the trust. I think trust is a big issue when it comes from, especially the lower LSM. You know, people want to make sure their money is safe.
Okay, thank you, Sean, for that response. So, which online platforms does Intercape use for the distribution of bus tickets?
So there's quite a few. Obviously, we have our own website, and then someone like CompuTicket per se, although you know it's also going through. They've got a website. Although retail outlet sales for that specific group is much more than their web-based sales. So let's name them. It's ourselves. It's CompuTicket. It will be the guys of the likes like Ticket Pro, which falls under Blue Label, the Blue Label group. It will be Travel Start, Flight Site, which is part of Pick and Pay, or Travel Start, which is Pick and Pay's booking site. And then we've got, you know, there's BuzzBut, which is a Canadian-based company. Lately, you've got QuickBus that came on board. Check by Bus. So there, you know, there's quite a bit of people entering the space. And I'll be honest with you, since COVID started, and obviously we all know this industry was hit very hard. But as we're getting through this COVID, you know, you're seeing more and more people wanting to get onto this online bandwagon of you know, trying to get that top spot to let sales go through it. Yeah.
So what value propositions do these online platforms offer? Like, do they bring in new customers for you?
So I guess it depends how you look at it. From a business point of view, you would obviously love everything to go through your own channel because, you know, when dealing with additional partners, there's always commissions involved. So, you know, there's commissions being paid out to every lead or every sale that goes through someone else's challenges. So what's the value in there for us? Obviously, it's the reach. Some of these guys have got a very wide reach. You know, if you take something like BuzzBud that spend a lot of money on ensuring the ranking is up there. I mean, I can't compete to try and get them off the top spot, for instance. I can, it's just going to take too much money. And then, you know, if you look in the online space, I mean, they're not only on the South African domains, it's all over where they've got search engines that push sales through to us. So, you know, value-wise, you pay commission to get the sale. But yes, there's certain promotions that you can run with guys, but it normally also comes at a cost. So I think it's just securing that sale and putting your network, you know, putting a wider net out there to try and bring the people. As I said, it would have been awesome if everybody came straight to our website. There's no commission involved. But you need some of these guys, unfortunately, with the likes of the name like a CompuTicket. It's a strong brand there. It's a trusted brand. People trust it. And just to name BuzzBuzz, for example, it's a growing, you know, people try, they test it, they see they're happy, and it's a growing platform. But the value in there, yes, as I said, it's getting that net wider out there.
Would you say that Intercape is dependent on these online platforms?
To a certain degree, yes. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these platforms will not be some of the, how can I put it now in the correct way? So, for us to be in a retail space, for example, this is part of the package. So, you can't be on the one and not the other one. So, so if you want to be in the retail outlets, you need to adopt to this. So, at this stage, I do believe yes, we are still dependent on them. Although we've got all the functionalities to not to use other online platforms, we've got our own systems and stuff to do it. But there's a bigger picture behind it, whereby unfortunately you need to have this to have the bigger, which is not a discussion here, but to be in the retailers, etc. It's all part of the package.
I want to take you back to your point of seeing entry within entry of other different platforms, and you mentioned BuzzBud. BuzzBud is a new competitor in the market, and they are growing. So I wanted to check or get a sense from you. Since the entry of new online platforms, have you seen or have you observed any change in average commissions that are being charged?
And commissions charged by competitors?
By the online platforms.
Okay, so if I understand your question with the new guys coming in, is there different commissions charged? Is there room for negotiation? If I'm understanding you correctly?
Yes, that's what I mean. Have the commissions that are being charged, have they changed since now there are new players in the market?
So no, the commissions have not changed. Currently, the industry norm is around 10%, if I can put it that way, which I believe is quite high. We, for one, try and negotiate lower rates at the moment, because given the circumstances of the industry, whereby we find ourselves in a position where coach travel is still capped on 70% load factor. You can only travel 70% people in a vehicle. So your profit margins lies in that last 30% which you can't load. So the norm in the industry is 10%, and been for many years. But as I said, we're at the point where we're busy trying to negotiate lower rates with competitors, because we just can't. 10% is a lot of money, and the margins is very, very small in this game. And online specifically, as I said, it's not that you must have them, but at this stage they still help. So it's a very difficult position to be in, because you're dependent on quite a bit of things. So I guess it's every operator's choice. I don't know what the other guys, but according to my knowledge, the industry norm is around about 10%. And for some reason, when somebody new approaches you, they always come with, listen, it's 10%. So, yeah. But is it sustainable going forward? I doubt. It's that this industry is in real distress. So it is a problem at this stage, and we, as I said, we try on a regular basis to try and lower these commissions as far as possible.
Thank you for that, Sean. So I believe that you guys have or enter into contracts with these online platforms. So in terms of contracting with them, have you had any challenges with any of the platforms?
Challenges in the form from service delivery,
in terms of concluding the terms and conditions of the contracts.
No, I won't say we did. We normally sit and it's a negotiation up and down and up and down. I won't say it's been a difficult transactions to be done. A lot of these guys, we've been in business with them for many a year. Apologies for the sun coming in here. For many a year. So some of these agreements come back donkey years, which get reviewed obviously on a more regular basis. But for the new players coming in, as I said, there's one or two guys that came in that's willing to do it for a bit less. but they're still small. You know, it's. We also try to give the local people the chance. So there's quite a few local companies that, you know, is trying out new kind of things, and you know, we sit and see what we can do for them. So, no, I won't say it's been a difficult, or no. I guess if you want each other, you know, if you want my business and I want your business, somehow we need to meet each other somewhere.
Okay, I just want to find out in terms of those terms and conditions in the contracts. Are there any other clauses that you find that seem to be unfair and not transparent?
No, I won't say as such. You know, I look at it as from a commercial point of view, as the CCO of the company, after which then obviously it gets vetted by legal. But no, I won't say, except for commission negotiation, which can be very tough. You know, I won't think it's nothing that's cornering us, or you know, something that we can't get out of, or etc. So I won't say no, it's not.
Okay, I just want to find out, has pricing parity been imposed by the online platforms? Maybe
Sorry, just repeat that, price.
the pricing parity. Sorry about that. Maybe
Yeah.
I can just give you a bit of context, right? So so what normally happens is that with a price parity clause, it is whereby the online platforms, they would have a clause in the agreements that you conclude with them that bus operators are prevented, or they are restricted from selling the bus tickets at a lower price than the price it would sell the ticket at, or on its own website or through any other channels. So there are those restrictions.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand your question. No, definitely not in a contract. You know, they can't subscribe us what we need to charge where. Definitely not in Intercape's case. So, I mean, our API, everything works for our API. So the price that you see on Intercape's website or Intercape's booking system is the price that you're going to see at, you know, at any of these outlets. However, there might be campaigns that we'll be running, maybe a 5-day campaign or something like that, Black Friday coming up. Although we're not participating this year, we don't have the luxury of giving discounts. But I mean, things like that, then, I mean, obviously you give a discounted price to the supplier in exchange, let's say, for marketing, you know, like a barter agreement. But it's not per se in a contract. So we don't get told, listen, what we charged. I believe whatever I charge on my system needs to be on everybody else's system. I mean, that's just how it is. Yeah.
Are exclusivity clauses being applied to the distribution of online bus tickets? Is it currently applied?
Not in our case, not in any of aware of. On the platforms we currently find ourselves in, I guess all the opposition, or most of them, those who survived COVID, is still on there. So we don't have any exclusivity with anyone. If you go on to, let's use the common ones, CompuTicket, BuzzBud, Bus, Ticket Pro. If you go onto any of their websites, you'll find all the main competitors there. I can't talk for the smaller guys. South Africa is, you will be shocked if you actually know how many bus operators is there trying to run a business like this. But no, I think the biggest competition is on there. And it's normally determined, your ranking of where do you lie is normally determined by price. Cheapest is normally on top, and yeah.
Were they previously applied?
Previously applied exclusivity.
Yes.
Since I can remember, all competitors and let's go. I mean, at that stage, I think the biggest one was CompuTicket. I can't say if exclusivity was there to keep anyone out. That I can't say. Obviously, I guess they need to answer for that. But since I can remember, it was us, Ground, which is the Unitons group, Cityliner. Back in the day, it was SA Roadlink, Autopacks, which is the state-owned enterprises, which was Translugs and City to City. The old Roadlink was there. APM later on joined the party, which was a project restarted. DMJ, so I can't say for exclusivity in the past. Not if we talk about who's got access to this. As I said, I can answer my own. I can answer for what I know about what's happening out there. If there's some funny stuff going on between other parties and one of these outlets, maybe I'm not aware of it. But no, we have not. As I said, according to me, it was always available. At what commission they come in, I won't be able to tell you. But according to my knowledge, the industry norm is roughly 10%.
Are there any other issues that you would like to raise in relation to the online distribution of bus tickets?
Thank you. I think South Africa is in such a unique position. We will never be able to. We will never be able to be. This industry will never be able to die. I think it's a matter of who's going to keep on giving a great service within the within this country. If you look at flights, we are so limited. You can fly from Pretoria to from Johannesburg to, let's say, East London. But if you look how the demography of this country is lying, I mean, how are you going to get to Nobo, Koffingharbour, Cholo Choma, all those little places in the Eastern Cape? And that's where the people come from, and that makes it so unique. So the industry is going to be there forever because we need to cater for these people. The mindset, yes, is how are you going to get an open, a platform, and how are you going to get people to buy in, and as I said from the beginning, to get them to trust this, to trust the systems, and how to make sure of online and that ease of heart that I can book online. My money's not going to get lost. So I think obviously, as I said, I think commission negotiation is definitely going to be something that's going to be on the tables. After you're giving away 10% of your blood, sweat, and money, although you need some of these guys and they need you, is a lot of money just to give away. So I guess that is going to be something we raised in the next few months and come up more on this discussion. Those who have survived COVID, but I think it's if I can end off, maybe that's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Let me check with the other technical members and also the panel members whether they have questions or not. I'm going to hand over to the chair. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Nanto. Sean, I just had a question, whether you look at other countries and how this online bus booking has developed there, and what we may expect in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Yeah. So obviously, I see BusBud as really as one of the big leaders. I do meet regularly with their teams and the guys looking after us, and that's the way of the future. The unfortunate thing is a lot of, and I'm going to say it as it is, a lot of these companies, they don't necessarily want to go onto system, because system means there's managing and there's statements, etc. And in Africa, the challenge, if I take Zimbabwe, for example, and it's not pointing finger, cash remains king. Now, people don't want to go through a system. You want to do these things. But if you see what's happening in the northern hemispheres, and it's amazing to see what people can do with online. And nobody's going. I mean, the traditional office is just dying out. I mean, you don't see an office. I mean, it's almost like our airlines. Who goes to the airport to go and buy an air ticket? And and the way they're teaching and educating people. And I guess with the younger generation coming through and smartphones becoming more available, access to the internet, it all just becomes easier. And I definitely believe it's going to grow. Once again, as I said, internet is one of the fastest growing channels of payment currently for us as well. So there is a change coming. I think COVID helped us a bit with that one.
And are you getting different payment options working for the online platform? Obviously, cash is king, but I think we've seen innovations around e-wallets and the like that don't necessarily involve cards.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've partnered with quite a few guys. You got your traditional pay gates. Apologies. Your traditional pay gates, which we kind of use. But as you mentioned, I mean, stuff like SnapScan coming through. There's we've partnered with guys like eBucks, where you can use your eBucks to pay online. So there's definitely nice challenges. There's a lot of voucher type of payments options going around. And then obviously also referring people, after phoning in somebody that's a bit, scared to complete the transaction, is actually to refer him, give him a reference number and go pay somewhere else. So there's definitely some innovations. As I said, how the rest of Africa is going to adopt to it in the neighboring countries. I mean, I can say for one, Malawi which is always nice for me when I went there. Malawi is they've got all kinds of payment options that people quickly adapted, and that's lovely to see, because they've got the likes of Makuru.com and those guys, which is in every single village. And I guess if you don't have a choice, you're kind of forced to start using that. So, there's interesting ways. I just think sometimes people are afraid to go on to these other type of platforms because, I mean, then they kind of expose their way of income.
And, I mean, Sean, you're mentioning that obviously moving online might see some of the demise of the office. I mean, is that going to create savings for the industry that maybe can help consumers, or can consumers save by not having to, I suppose, pay for travel into an office and just do it online?
So I don't know how much time I have, but I think it's important to understand the history of what happened to this industry. And a lot of people forget it. In 2016, it used to be a very regulated industry. You need to apply for a permit, and then you get a permit, and then somebody can object to the permit. So it was basically like a mini court case in order for you to actually get a permit to operate. And around 2016, for some reason, every second guy who had a bus started getting permits. It was dished out left, right, and center. With the result is you all of a sudden have such an influx of role players coming into the market that, there was just too many vehicles. And first thing you do when you buy a new bus and you're on a 6-month payment holiday, then it's nice. You can undercut the prices. And that's actually why I want to stop. And that was the baddest thing that ever could have happened to this industry, because everybody went into a price war since 2016. That's great for the consumer, because all of a sudden he's got all these lovely cheap options. The problem that brought along is the first thing that goes is safety. You can't sustain with that kind of prices. If your payment holiday is XO, you don't have the infrastructure, then the consumer actually is on the second end. And that's when you see starting bus accidents, all these kinds of things, because you can't keep up with the maintenance. And, you just can't. And any case, so would it be cheaper for the client to go into the office? Not necessarily. Yes, he's going to save on fuel. Definitely, he's going to save on fuel. He's not going to have the risk of possibly getting some disease, which is a big concern at this stage. And pray not that it happen. We focus a lot on campaigns. Actually educating people not, rather buy online than go to office, because it minimizes the risk for us and it minimizes the risk for our staff and for them as well. So yes, there's definitely be a saving the more we push towards online sales. The only negative thing about us, for us, then again, as I said, if it's not your own channel, you lose commission, and you need to pay out commission. So the customers save on that side, but for us, it's kind of a bit of a blow. But that's the way the life is going to. The traditional office will never disappear within South Africa. And when I talk about, then I talk specifically to your bigger starting points, because there's still an operational function that needs to take place. Apologies. So almost like an upside at our Tambu, we need to board people, and people need to go through a boarding process. The luggage needs to be checked in. So from that point of, there will always be a go-to little place at these big things. So it will never go away. I just think it's gonna, from a sales point of view, it's gonna have a more of an operational function than a sales function.
Thanks, Sean. I think it was interesting that you pointed out that maybe there's a saving of being online, but not necessarily for you because you're paying commissions if it's not your channel. So I think that's a useful insight. Nothing. Sorry, I think we have one question from Donovan Lindley.
Hi, Sean. I want to rephrase one of the questions that Apiwe asked earlier. Have you had a situation where you negotiated a commission, and that average commission that you paid has changed over time with a particular player? You don't have to go into specifics, just...
No, it's fine. So yes, there was definitely some of the guys that we negotiated down. If that answers your question, where we had higher commissions before paid, which we negotiated down, but you kind of get to the 10% and then you're stuck. And it's been like this now for quite a few years. So definitely there was in my knowledge, while I was in the role of where I found myself, we have negotiated rates before, which we managed to bring down. But 10% you're kind of stuck at the moment.
Thanks, Sean. I think that's all the questions from the panel. We really do appreciate your time and giving us more insights about the bus platforms that are emerging. And it's certainly something, I think is an important part of a growing South African economy as well, servicing a very important commuter need as well. So I know it's been a tough time for the bus industry. I wish you all the best now that travel has opened up again, and hopefully you find your feet again. So thank you.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you, panel. It was nice chatting to you.
Thanks, Sean. You can leave the meeting now, and we'll just see if our next participant is online. We don't have our next participant yet. They're only due at past, so we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll resume at past. Sorry,
you.
Sandile,
Thank
we're
you
not
for the
quite
opportunity.
live yet.
Great.
All right, welcome back from that break. Our last participant for the day on travel is Mr. Sandile Intseoane. I hope I got that right, from SAVRALA, the South African Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association, or Southern African Vehicle and Leasing Association. Welcome, Sandile. I'm going to let you take us through the presentation, and as we're running it, if you just tell us when to move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks, James. Thanks for the opportunity to make a presentation. At this stage, I think you have introduced, my name is Sandile Ntseoane. I represent SAVRALA, the South African Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association. If we could move to the next. Basically, I just thought it's important to cover just the membership, just to show the breadth, cover the NEC, and I'll skip the benefits, but I'll just give you an appreciation of the size of the industry, and then, we can move to the next one. Basically, the membership consists of some of the known brands and international brands. I must say that I did indicate earlier to Donovan that I was in the process of updating this. The rental members are much more than this. I know that the public tends to know those that are located at airports, but we have a whole lot of smaller ones that are really doing great work, and which also form the subject of this of your focus this afternoon. And then move to the next slide, and these are the leasing members. I know, these, we're looking at long-term sort of rentals or leasing, as it were. Next slide. We also have the associate members, which comprise of your OEMs, vehicle manufacturers. Again, this slide has not really been updated, but there's quite a few. We cover quite a few of mainly the 7, manufacturers and some of the distributors. Next one. This captures exactly what SAVRALA is. I think what's important is that our members are guided by a code of conduct and constitution. And, I think what's important is that, we try and ensure that we maintain, certain standards to a point that we do look at the terms and conditions of our members to ensure that, they're in line with our code of conduct. The association is obviously led by an NEC or a board, which is drawn from the industry itself, and I, with myself as the general manager. Next. Again, just to reflect on the representation here, we've got our president who's from the Motors Group, and Standard Bank as vice president. We have, Pace Car Rental, which is one of the smaller ones, which has grown substantially over the years, representing almost the smaller guys and deputized by Avis. And on the leasing side, we've got 58 Fleet and again, Standard Bank. We do have co-opted members and Hertz and Europcar are part of those. All right, next. I'll skip this one. I think what we mainly do is basically just to make sure that we lobby on behalf of our members, and we do that quite effectively by, either belonging to the likes of BUSA, which is Business Unity South Africa, and also we are part of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. And our membership does give some level of credibility. We've managed to, for instance, work with the likes of, Treasury to ensure that some of the tenders
do require that you are a membership. This gives you an idea of just the overview of the industry itself. Annual revenue of just about 6 billion. Average fleet is 70. This excludes the leasing, and including leasing, we represent about 400,000 vehicles on ownership and fleet management. One of the key measurements that we utilize in car rental is utilization. And at this stage, we're looking at a 72% utilization. In fact, this utilization has really gone down as a result of COVID, but it's really on its way up. And annually, you're looking at almost 2.7 million transactions that take place in rental. Move. And in terms of just the contents of these, you'll be familiar with these because I took them directly from, I think, the questionnaire that you had circulated. Okay, move. Now, some of the areas that I've looked at, the ability of car rental, in particular, those owned by HDIs and SMEs to compete, and how the current online ecosystem limits and enables competition from these players, and dependencies and possible exploitative, unfair, or non-transparent behavior of online platforms towards car rental companies, and lastly, the recommendations or suggestions on how to improve fairness, transparency, etc. I need to just make this declaration that most large members that were approached, you will recall I had circulated a questionnaire and asked our members to deal directly with the commission, and I think quite a few of them may have sent, because that was not visible to myself, they may have sent some of the confidential information and responded to the questionnaire. But most large members approached were very reluctant to participate because some of these online intermediaries they are very big accounts. So, but nearly all smaller, do you want to go back? I think it's an important point. Nearly all smaller or HDRs and SMEs car rentals do not use online intermediaries. I think that's basically, I needed to just declare that up front. Can move. And then the few that are managed to, interview so that I could source information to help, with carry out this exercise, which are mainly the large ones, and you're talking a few, really. These are the sort of responses I received from my interviews with them, because I had to sit down and, either make a call and go through the various questions with them. And basically, I think those questions are, the answers, which are average. I think they're there for the commission to see for themselves in terms of the percentage contribution of the distribution channels towards average monthly sales or lead volumes. Next. I've also just ensured that at least I look at the questionnaire again in terms of just industry online platform use and importance, and how they rate these in terms of dependency, and most of them were basically just they rated, for instance, if you look at rental cars, a 3, and sunny cars, a 3. These tend to be the most used ones, and this represent moderately dependent. And again, as reflected on there, you'll see that in terms of just the platform itself, in net rate non-commissionable, net rate non-commissionable, I've indicated the sort of percentage, the average discount percentage given. I think I'll talk to that point again in the next in the following slides. Next. Here, in terms of just the rankings, I think it's important to note that, in terms of the number of customers it reaches per month, they rated that as important. And then the next one, again, the uniqueness of the customer, the customers, the platform reaches, again, moderately important. And, the ratings or the rankings are there for the Commission to see itself. I think it's just important to note that in terms of platform fees and pricing, they basically just focused on net rates. Those net rates are given with no commission at all. Next. In terms of platform fees and pricing, most, as I indicated, absorb the cost of these commissions and fees fully. And in terms of gross profit margin percentage on sales, they reckon that's confidential, so I couldn't really act out that information. And in terms and conditions, including commissions or fleet, these are not negotiable or adjusted in line with performance of online intermediation platforms. All right. Again, in terms of just the platform terms and conditions, you'll see how they see these as on average fair, and some have indicated that these areas are not necessarily applicable, but I think it's worth noting that if you look at just the options that were ticked or highlighted, they see these as pretty much fair in all of those terms and conditions. Right. Again, the transparency of these terms and conditions, it's again mostly fair. They perceive them as fair and moderately sort of fair. So it's just for the Commission to interpret what that would mean. I think the next slides is really what I'd like to just focus on. All right. On the marketing side, no termination of service or usage of the platform was reported. Most car rental members make use of meta search engine services to drive consumer traffic to their websites. And the two largest meta search engine searches, that is, by the number of leads generated, most car rentals use typically Google. Google tends to be the most used, followed by Facebook. And the service, the services meta search engines are entirely unavoidable. It's one of the questions that I think was asked, if these are avoidable, or and they found them to be unavoidable when driving leads to their website. And most car rental members make use of Google, as I indicated. So I think that information is embedded in the questionnaire. I just thought it's good to just give an indication of what, as I think here's my colleague. Let me just admit. All right. It's important to just indicate that the services Google provide, for instance, are entirely unavoidable and driving leads. Just as a percentage, and they basically just rated them as 4%, and believe that members' access to customer data obtained by the two largest online intermediaries platforms is described as fair as well. And I think the last but not least, the customer searches or prominent display position for generating customer sales or leads on a is considerably very important. And I think the last point here is that the vehicles are ranked according to car group and price. And move on to the next one. Welcome, Grant. Okay.
Apologies, there's a huge storm here.
Yeah. All right. I think this this part is quite important, just under general. I think where, in the interviews I've had with the various members, particularly the targeted ones, and I did indicate that most of the smaller members do not really participate in this. And I said, most HDIs have not joined the various platforms and have declined the offers and opportunities to be on any of the platforms. And some of the reasons that were cited are the online platform seeks to partner with rental companies that can offer them exceptionally low rates on their vehicles, and in turn they commit to large number of rental days. And these are perceptions, and and perceptions could really be real. And the online platforms base their model on volume expectations. And unfortunately, these cannot provide the expected volumes, and thus tend to favor large or big rental companies with large vehicle numbers on fleet, and thus are in a position to offer reduced rates based on volume, but still remain profitable. So it's a point I did indicate earlier. And in terms of HEIs, they don't use the intermediaries platforms for the following reasons. One, they find that the commission fees are not affordable. Customer relationships cannot be managed in any ethical manner, and the risk, customers adhere to the standard booking procedure of these platforms and not necessarily of the individual vehicle providers linked to the platform. As a company, one cannot verify the customer prior or at the time of the vehicle reservation because, they tend to have their own T's and C's. Online platforms have their set terms and conditions that customer accept at the time of the vehicle booking, and these do not necessarily align with the car rental terms. And lastly, the car rental company's rental deposits and additional charges are not displayed on the online platform booking pages or even communicated to the client on booking. And this creates a problem with customers upon collection of vehicles, and the rental company is seen as a rip-off. And these, part of what Savrala stands for, it's whilst we're not an official ombudsman, but certainly we are the ombudsman for the industry. And you do find some of the complaints that come my desk, certainly they would really, where there's a perception that there's a rip-off created by this very example that's given here, where they are seen as ripping off the customer because of that misalignment. All right, move to the next one. Online platforms are generally operated by individuals not based in South Africa, and queries take time to resolve because you are dealing with faceless people, and this is the feedback one received largely from the smaller players. If you recall the declaration I made. Next. I will invite Grant to join me here. I think he's an operator who's quite there in the field, and he will also just add as well. One of the, just under general, one of the other items that worth noting is that there is no opportunity to access customer data, and our members usually get the details from their renters. So, it's a specific question that was asked by the commission, and I thought it's got to be highlighted here. And the prominence is very important, obviously, to car rental companies and to any business. And they found that we've been listed on rentalcars.com for many years, but we don't get bookings because our cars simply don't come up in the searches. So that's I think that's where the difference between the average size and the bigger guys, where the smaller rental companies tend to find themselves disadvantaged. On on rentalcars.com, we simply don't rank, and tried many tactics to improve our listing, but it is not working. I've kind of stated some of the comments that were made on average by our members. From my perspective, in the car rental industry, we invest in an asset with a high fixed cost and a low variable cost. For this reason, once you have a car park with 1,000 vehicles, you are better off getting any price above your variable cost than having a car standing. The large aggregator know that they have the power to fill or empty or rank or parking lot. So at times they do use their market dominance to obtain rates that are, at rates below sustainable levels. The big issue in the aggregator space for our business is the many of the services like car trawlers won't speak to you if you don't have a system that already talks to theirs. There is no space for manual interaction. I think it also kind of talks to the previous point that I had highlighted earlier. The other issue is that we don't have airport properties, so it's difficult for us to explain that the client would need to Uber to us on the aggregator side. I had highlighted, just to give an appreciation of the number of car rental companies that are doing great work there. Yes, you find the known brands located at the airports, but there's quite a lot of smaller ones that contribute to that 6 billion per annum, derived by car rental. Move to the next. I think, yeah, if you could just go back. And at this stage, I'd like to, even before we take any sort of questions, perhaps I'd like to invite Granville Simon, who's the CEO of Pace Car Rental.
Thank you, Sandy. Just a couple of points to note from our perspective as operators.
Grenville, we've got a bit of an echo coming from your side. I don't know if there's something you can do to fix that.
Okay, let me...
That's better. That's better.
Seems to have gone. Okay. So one of the big issues is once you've got a big aggregator renting vehicles from you, sometimes what they do is they don't actually allow you to undercut them. So let's say you've got a car standing in your car park. You can't go and advertise a better price than that aggregator. And if you do, quite often if people say, oh, why would I book on the aggregator when I can get it cheaper directly from the supplier, then they'll phone you and threaten to pull all the business if you don't adjust your rates to above their selling rate, because they'll guarantee that they're going to get you the best, cheapest car rental or whatever it is. So they get, so there's this issue in terms of pricing where they use their sort of power to force you to price it above their price, even though they're taking whatever 20, 30% commission. The other thing is what they do, which Sandile alluded to, is they make it very easy to compare the price of the vehicle, but not the terms and conditions of that vehicle. So, for instance, they might say, look, this one's 200 Rand a day, and then you get another one that's 300 Rand a day. But they won't tell you that the 300 Rand a day vehicle includes unlimited kilometers and super cover, whereas the one for 200 includes no cover and 50 free kilometers a day. And that's where the customers arrive at the counter expecting to pay 1,000 Rand for 5 days car rental, and it end up costing them 3,000 Rand for 5 days car rental, because a lot of, I mean, almost every aggregator you go on, there's no way to compare the terms and conditions within 2 or 3 minutes. And I mean, I know car rental very, very well. I've been a NEC member of the Car Rental Association for 8 years, but I cannot find those terms and conditions on these aggregators' websites. So a customer will phone in and say, oh, I've got this car rental for 200 Rand. Can you match it? And when I go, I say, sure, I'll match it, but I'll match the terms and conditions. But I mean, to find those terms and conditions is almost impossible. So for me, there's a lot of mis-selling by the aggregators. Obviously, I've mentioned, and then the other aspect is the ability to integrate with the aggregators. It definitely cuts out your small players. If you want to integrate with the aggregators, you need to have a very advanced computer system. And generally, those computer systems are quite costly. You know, it's not the type of thing that a pace car rental can go and get. You need to be an operator. It's like a chicken and egg. You have to be at the airports to make it viable to use those systems. But if you don't have those systems, it's not viable to be at the airport, if you get what I'm saying. So if you want to, as a small player, break into the airport, you have to have a lot of money, because first of all, you have to pay the exorbitant rent to be at the airport, and then you have to go and invest in these systems, or you have to invest in the systems before you actually arrive at the airports and have this huge expense that goes on top. So the integration into those aggregators is very difficult. And then the other thing is, you know, because of their buying power in terms of keywords and advertising, because they're advertising for 100 car rental branches at the same time. So they can afford to pay for the keywords. When I'm bidding as a person with one branch in each city, I've got to hope that that person's going to be near my branch in that city. Whereas they're advertising for all the branches in that city. So they can pay a lot stronger for the keywords on Google than what we can. So in a way, if you try and undercut them and they cut you out, it's very costly to try and replace that marketing and be able to offer the clients a better price. So yeah, and I think those are my major points today.
Thank
you very much for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Grenville, and thanks, Sandile. We are going to obviously have to run over, but I do think there's a few important issues to just traverse with you. And I think, you know, the first one, Sandile, you almost highlighted that often for customers, you think about the global brands who are sitting at the airport when one thinks of car rental. But there's a much bigger ecosystem of smaller car rental companies in this country. And many of those will also be, you know, that's where the historically disadvantaged owned car rental companies sit as well. And I suppose as a mandate for this inquiry, you know, we're interested in participation in the online economy and ensuring that South African businesses can obviously be part of the online economy and the benefits that it provides, but also especially the smaller players and historically disadvantaged players as well. So I think bringing to us some of the views from some of the smaller members is important, and I think we're going to have to deepen that engagement as well. I mean, what we have found, well, I can't say findings, but some of what we are hearing in some of the other platforms as well is that sometimes the online world doesn't integrate well with smaller or historically disadvantaged players because the kind of things that you've raised, which, and I think Grenville, you raised about maybe it's the systems you need to integrate, or that it's servicing a need, the traveller, that and I get a sense that a lot of from what you're saying, a lot of the big aggregators or global aggregators are servicing a need around travel, and therefore it is about brands and access at airports that maybe they're predominantly focused on. I suppose the question I've got is, I mean, are any of the smaller members on any of these platforms at all, or are we just seeing it's the global brands so far?
Well, James, I think I did indicate at the outset that certainly my investigation, when I interacted with our members, my findings are that most of the smaller members are not, purely for the reasons that I had advanced as well, and that they gave me also. That they find it quite expensive. I think because of just the sheer volume, size of their fleet, it basically just disadvantages them. And as Grenville pointed out, I think the size of your of the company does make a difference as well in terms of just the reach and also the ability to can absorb some of the costs involved in this. Yeah.
Sorry, Grenville, I think you wanted to come in.
If you just look at the Bakkie and commercial vehicle rental space, Bakkies and trucks, it's dominated by small players. Even Avis and Budget, Bidvest and those guys, they sell Bakkie franchises. And, so where there is an ability for the small guys to compete, like in the Bakkie rental and truck rental spaces, it's not dominated by these big brands. Obviously, the airports, the fact that there's only 10 slots at the big airports does mean you have to be one of the 10 biggest companies to be at the airport. But even then, some of those small companies at the airport, because they can't link into these systems, they don't survive. Like there's Capital Car Hire, their shop is constantly closed, and Select Car Rental, they also got a slot, but they never survived. And, I used to work at Europcar, and once you switch on those taps, on those big aggregators, the bookings, sometimes when you come in the morning, you have 150 bookings waiting there to be loaded. It does, having access to those platforms would definitely make it possible for those small guys to succeed when they do actually get a slot at the airport.
So how do we open up those taps for the smaller operators? We started, you mentioned the technical aspect. We've seen in other platforms that almost intermediaries have emerged to assist. Yeah. So in travel, where you've got a small B&B, there's listing software or sort of management software where it allows you to link to many of the aggregators. Is there not any of this sort of emerging in the car rental space?
Yeah, there are, like I said, there are systems like that, but they're very costly. And for instance, our business, we deal with the man in the street. So if we were to go into that system, the system, they charge you, let's say, $2 a transaction to be on the system. And then what you can do is you can go to all those aggregators and ask them to link into the system. But like I'm saying, I would then have to give up $2 per transaction And then in 5 years' time, when I get invited to the airport, then suddenly it'll start paying dividends. But, these aggregators deliver probably a huge proportion of their bookings at the airport. So if you don't have a slot, it's not worth being on. There's not many people, like we've engaged with rentalcars.com, and they've got quite a nice system where it emails you the booking, and they kind of like an intermediary that hooks into these big booking systems. But the problem is that, we in Sanson, we don't get bookings from rental cars, no matter how low we make our prices. There's just not business.
So if the global platforms are mostly focused on airports, do they have sections of their platforms that look at more city rental, long-term rental for a longer vacation? Do they make those offers? Because even Grenville...
They do, but I don't know why, but we've tried and tried and tried, but we can't get on the rentalcars.com platform our listings to show up onto their system. So I'm not maybe I don't understand why. We phoned them and asked them if our listing's correct, and they always say, no, it should be showing, but it doesn't. But the commissions that come off of that, so you have to be the cheapest, and they still take 20% of the fee.
Well, my sense is that look, it's a free market, and they obviously have their algorithms that really would finally decide, and size does matter. So the smaller guy is affected by their size, obviously, and so what happens? I've pointed out earlier that the very fact that the bigger guys have these volumes, large fleets, they are able to even absorb some of the costs that Grenville was talking to. So it's a difficult one. You are saying, I know for a fact, sitting also on the Tourism Business Council, there is a platform that is designed purely for smaller SMEs and previously disadvantaged for that very reason, because the booking.coms just don't cater favorably for those. So, I don't know if it's something that can be influenced at your level, but certainly, this is, it's a free market, and, I don't think car rental, not even the association can really influence that.
Yeah, and I think... Sorry, Grenville, can I just respond to Sandile? Look, yes. It is a free market, but a free market can also favor certain interests, and that's why we have a competition commission and why we also have an inquiry. And part of this inquiry is exactly to find out if there are factors that are hindering participation, because we see in other areas that sometimes online platforms can actually be more inclusive of small business and provide more visibility. But obviously, if you're not on the platform, you're not visible. Sandile, I just want to ask, are there any local platforms in car rental that you're aware of that provide this sort of service? Because we started with the big platforms, the global platforms, but that's not the only potential source.
I'm not aware. Grenville is out there in the cold front, but I'm not aware of any. I have myself run a car rental company there, so I was very much in that space of smaller car rental, and I can't recall. Gren, perhaps you can share any developments in that area.
Yeah, I wouldn't really call them platforms, but there are a lot of brokers that have their own websites, and once they get a booking, then they'll farm it out. So with those sort of let's call them old school brokers, it is possible for the smaller companies to interact with them because, you know, in general, we'll be quicker to respond on the emails and more, you know, they can negotiate a better rates if it's a specifically long rental. But there aren't any online platforms except really for, and I think rentalcars.com might actually, I don't know if they've got a South African branch, but they do have a help center that allows you to link up. But like I said, the volumes are very low on rentalcars.com, especially in downtown locations. If you're at the airport, I think it might work, but in downtown locations, it doesn't.
And you mentioned long-term rental. Is that also something that the global platforms focus on, or not?
Not necessarily.
You see, the long-term, because of the commission that's charged, because they're taking 20% commission, the long-term car rental space is quite competitive. So generally, the long-term car rental space is it works on smaller commissions, which these big websites don't sort of agree with. But there is a South African company called Flex Club that started a platform for that does long-term car rental. It's, yeah, they certainly do provide, you know, they do quite a lot of good business, but they're almost in the leasing space rather than the car rental space.
But that's a platform itself which links then leasing companies with customers.
Yes, that's right. It's called Flex Club.
And in the commercial space, is it also just brokers that are working in this area?
The commercial space, there are some brokers, but generally there you deal directly with the end client. So, you know, they would go on the internet and search Bucky rental, or they would search car rental, see that there's no Bucky's there, and then they would search Bucky rental, and then they would find the Bucky rental agencies. Like, well, Pace Car Rental, Spartan, contract truck hire, there's a lot of U-Rents, there's a lot of quite sizable small Bucky companies.
I mean, I suppose one cannot ask a platform to change its business model and focus on a different customer segment. But it strikes me there may be opportunities here for local platforms to emerge. Do we know if there's people who have tried at least to make this into a digital opportunity?
Not the only people I'm aware of is Flex Club, and yeah, no, there's no other ones that come to mind immediately.
And maybe back to Sandile. I mean, you mentioned that some of the members you spoke to, especially the historically disadvantaged ones, don't make use of these platforms for some of the reasons you've set out. I mean, do those members still see a benefit if they were able to get online? Not necessarily on those platforms, on those terms, but a benefit from being online and being on a platform rather than just trying to advertise through Google AdWords, where what we've seen in other areas, I think the benefit is often of an aggregator that customers go to them, they see a selection of options, and at least you may be more visible in that way than trying to compete on Google AdWords.
I think there's certainly, a benefit. I mean, that they would derive, and they are very much aware of that. I mean, everyone does require some level of visibility, and that's what these platforms tend to give you, and it gives you reach to markets that you probably wouldn't otherwise reach. So I think the only contentious point is the fact that they tend to be expensive for a smaller guy, and the whole lack of control in terms of terms and conditions, and that misalignment in terms of conditions and some of the things that I've highlighted earlier also does discourage them from really participating, because if anything, they see themselves as just taking on challenges and problems with client problems. And Grenville did allude to the fact that some of the clients would come when they get to the counter only to realize that, cheapest, there is a certain cost that was not necessarily stated on online, and it's actually part of the rental process, and it's got to be added, and that in itself then makes customers perceive car rental members as being ripping them off, as it were. So yeah. But I guess I think one of the challenges you recall that, I mean, right now when we just came out of COVID, and one of the key segments that we focus on as certainly as an industry is inbound, and unfortunately, whilst the smaller guys do service inbound purely from other avenues, I mean. And what tends to, in terms of convenience, it's very convenient for anyone flying from the UK or US or Japan to basically land at the airport and grab a car from there. And I think it's because these companies are, really aggressively advertised. But in Japan, you don't necessarily, I think, outside these other, areas, parts of the world, you don't necessarily rely on the guys at the airport, because people are quite prepared to actually wait and get picked up by whoever drops the car at the airport. So perhaps it does also would represent some sort of mind shift. But also, I think the commission can, in a way, influence. We don't want a legislated environment. It does make trading difficult. But you asked a question here, and I can't think really. How do you solve a problem to ensure you smoothen things out for SMEs, and let alone the previously disadvantaged? But just the SMEs, because of the importance of SMEs in the growth of, in the contribution to the economy. So this is something that where perhaps some, I don't know, legislation directed at these to ensure that they cater for SMEs, and I don't know how though, because the whole thing is also driven by algorithms, as I indicated earlier. Yeah.
Grenville, do you seem to want to come in?
Yeah, just wanted to mention, the difference between, let's say, like a Airbnb or a bookings.com or something like that is when a person lands, they want a certain quality of vehicle. And the aggregator wants to know that they are dealing with a company that has a certain quality. So I understand why they put the barriers to entry, because a lot of those small players, their vehicles they run them a little bit longer, and they're not of the exact same quality. So they use the ICRIS codes, and they say small, compact, aircon manual vehicle, or small economy manual, those ICRIS codes. So just because it's got the same ICRIS code doesn't mean that it's going to be of the same quality. So I understand why the barriers to entry are there, but there are a lot of good small companies that, are Sobrala members and stick to the rules. Your vehicle must be less than 3 years old, less than 100,000. And generally, they also try to compete with the big guys, so they don't push it to 100. They might defleet at 65 or 70,000, whereas the big guys defleet at 40,000 kilometers on the clock. But from the other side, for the small guys trying to get in there, the guy that's just won the tender to have a place at the airport, what they could do is put in some kind of functionality where you can say, I'm going to offer, because the big thing is availability. Why the aggregators like these computer systems like Bluebird Auto Systems or cars and that type of thing, is that when the client books, it goes into the computer and it has a look at the booking sheets and it actually can see which vehicles are available for rental. And when that booking is confirmed, they know that that car is available. That car then becomes unavailable, and the next booking that goes through, that booking may or may not get accepted depending on whether or not there's a vehicle with that time available. So maybe a solution to that issue around the availability would be for the the small players, let's say like my business, to be able to go on there and say, I have 10 cars available in Sandton from this date to this date, and you can book them. And then those, I will guarantee that I won't book them for another client. If I do, I will remove them of the aggregator system and make them no longer available. So it's just the way that you interact. And the thing is that they the first question they ask you is, what system are you on? And depending on what you answer, our system's pretty not a well-known one. So then sometimes they don't even respond to you. But obviously, if you're on a Bluebird Auto Rental or you're on a Cars or the Carsys Pro or something like that, then they know that they're going to be able to book directly on your system, and that if it says it's available, it is available. And I think maybe just a small adjustment to their software might make it possible to give customers a lot more options. And it might actually benefit the small players trying to get in and the aggregators. Maybe they don't actually see the opportunity that lies there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we can't ask a platform to necessarily change their business model. If there's something they're already doing that's hindering, we can ask for those terms to change. But to develop a new area may not be within what we can do. But I do note on what you're just raising, Grenville, I think the travel accommodation space initially looked at exactly systems of holding inventory, that you commit certain rooms until it reached a point where the online interface was sufficiently developed that didn't need to happen. So I think the industry has some experience in all of this, but maybe car rental has not attracted the same amount of interest. But I think, gentlemen, we've already gone half an hour over for our session, so I'm unfortunately going to have to call it to a close. But I do think this is an area we would like a lot more engagement, and Sandile, I think engagement with a variety of your smaller members as well, just to see, where this goes and whether some of these barriers to building an online system can work. As I indicated, we also can't demand that someone build a system for South Africa, but clearly there's an opportunity here. Clearly there are benefits, and hopefully if someone's listening and is sitting in a garage somewhere in South Africa with a computer, then they have a business idea. So thank you both very much. I think it has been educational, and I think you've also opened our eyes to another area of opportunity to increase involvement in the digital economy. I think we'll pick up certainly on some of those terms and conditions, and to the extent that they are barriers. But it may be that the business model at the moment of the global companies is not, in fact, attuned to smaller or city-based opportunities, and that needs to change.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity, but we are available, Chair, for, should you wish to engage further in this regard.
No, thank you. We definitely do want to take it further, and we will be in contact just to I think, get further ideas from your members as well, and just to also explore some of the local platforms, if it's just Flex Club or there's others. Thank you both, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good night.
Good night.
Just before we close, just a reminder, tomorrow morning we start with Samsung at 10, and after that we have Price Check, who many South Africans will be familiar with, and then Red Puppy, an online e-commerce platform, and that will be just a morning session.